Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm your host, Jay Fidell.
And I'm your co-host, Nicole Hori.
In our show this time, we'll cover our luncheon panel program on solar in Hawaii. How will it do over the long haul?
The program examined the success of solar in Hawaii's clean energy landscape and what we can expect in the future. Cully Judd, an early pioneer in solar and the founder of Inter-Island Solar, gave us his thoughts on the subject.
Today's price of oil is $102.85 per barrel for a West Texas intermediate. Hawaiian Electric pays approximately $130 per barrel for a required low sulfur oil. The stranglehold on Hawaii continues. The export dollar is $6 to $7 billion a year to import fossil fuels, primarily petroleum, to Hawaii. Tahitians paddling up to Hawaii, hot and sweaty on a cold winter night, hopped into a black pahoehoe pool of warm, some heated water, taking the first solar bath in Hawaii. The beginning of the history, I guess, of solar. My dad grew up here and lived in a house with a solar water heater in 1917. In the 50s, there was a company, and a few, Durant Irvine, old-timers may remember them, had a solar water heating division. Between the plantations and homes, there were about 5,000 solar water heaters in the 40s and 50s. When I started business in 1973, welding copper pipes together in my neighbor's garage. Also in 1973, the first oil embargo caused the price of oil to go from $3 to $10 a barrel. Astronomical percentage. America was flabbergasted. Our collector was named SolarRay, for which we named the SolarRay Corporation, which we operate today.
Senator Mike Gabbard, chair of the Hawaii State Senate Energy Committee, gave us his opening remarks.
What an incredible success our solar industry has been in our economy. A couple illustrations. One, Hawaii rooftop solar capacity increased 1,000% since 2007. Secondly, we are number 3 in the country in per capita PV installations. Number 3, 342 businesses in Hawaii have the word solar in their title. 4, solar industry now accounts for about 9,000 jobs and 26% of all construction expenditures in the state. And I was also told by a prominent member of the solar industry that they are close to $1 billion in economic impact. As I've said repeatedly since I became the chair of the Senate Energy and Environment Committee in 2009, if we are going to indeed kick our addiction to fossil fuels and keep the lion's share of that $4 to $6 billion that we're spending on oil here at home, it has to be a kako thing. All the stakeholders working together to reach our goal.
Our moderator, Leslie Cole Brooks of the Hawaii Solar Energy Association, then introduced the panel for our program.
It included Commissioner Mike Champley of the PUC, Mark Duda of Revolusun, Marco Mangelsdorf of Provision Solar, Riley Saito of SunPower, Joe Saturnia of Island Pacific Energy, and Scott Siu of Hawaiian Electric.
Our grid needs work. It needs to be upgraded. It needs to be updated. It needs to be able to accept modern technology so that we can get on with business here. The question is, who pays for it? Does the utility and its shareholders pay for that? Is that a business expense? Is that what they do in order to make sure they can continue to deliver their product and their services and to abide by the statutory mandates that they have to live by? So is it a business expense? Should the utility pay for that? Or should the ratepayers pay for it? Now that's how it's been in the past with energy efficiency, right? A new chiller, lighting upgrade, solar hot water. This is something that all the ratepayers pay for because Hawaii Energy is funded through the PBF. We all pay that on our electric bill, right? So everybody pays for that, even though, say you live in an apartment, you got a new chiller that Hawaii Energy helped fund, you benefit directly, but all the ratepayers pay for that. So it's already been determined that these kinds of improvements benefit all of us. So the third possibility is, for solar, should just the individual homeowner or the business owner have to pay for the upgrades? Because that's what's happening right now.
You know, the topic of this was to talk about the long run, but anybody that's actually active in the solar industry in the state probably right now in particular is having a difficult time thinking any longer than like tomorrow. And certainly all of our attention is focused on the short run. I should say my word is interconnection, which will become real clear. So, so if you look at what's going on, roughly this industry gets segmented, residential, commercial, and utility scale. The utility scale stuff that was sort of in development got wiped out by the tax credit changes last year. HECO has pretty clearly reduced its attention on the bilateral PPAs in favor of waiver projects. So essentially, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of development got wiped out by the combined effects of those two things and has been replaced by efforts to get some larger projects in there under different terms. Residential kind of rode through the tax credit changes. The commercial, the smaller commercial didn't actually face any changes. Larger commercial kind of got hit with the same stuff as the utility scale did. But what's really happening to the residential, and I'm speaking most particularly on Oahu, although this is actually statewide, is the recent changes by HECO to their interconnection policies, which if I had more than 5 minutes, I could explain how they're not effectively retroactive, which was my worry. They're explicitly retroactive.
My name is Scott Sue. I've been with Hawaiian Electric now for 20 years this year. And as Leslie said in her introduction, had a chance to start working renewable energy in 2008. And it's been quite a ride for all of us, I think, in this room. My word, you know, okay, let me back up a bit. In the prep session that Jay had with all of us, he said, I want you to think of a word, and that word really needs to portray what is the main point you want to deliver to this audience. If there's anything they remember from what you say, think about that word. Okay, so I thought about words, and as I walked in here, I said, you know what, I don't like the word that I was thinking of. And the word that I conjured up as I was sitting there, as I was walking to this microphone, is customer. Okay? Now, customer, what do I mean by that? I'm going to talk about the word customer through my eyes, and I'll walk you through a day in the life of me, of Scott Sue. Okay? Because I like to think that I am in the middle of serving so many customers. Every one of you in this room is one of my customers.
When originally we talked about a word, my word was going to be when. And it was in the two contexts. The first was the easy one, which is when is the market going to fill up? When are we going to reach a saturation point with our customers? In the solar industry, we just don't have that many customers left to sell to. The other is when is the grid going to fill up? And we talked about that a little bit already today. But the real purpose of talking about when really wasn't that easy part. It was thinking a little bit differently than we think now about energy. Right now, when we think about energy and our sales group goes and sells to our customers, the first thing they do is they ask the customer for their bill. And they say, how many kilowatt hours do you use? And we size a PV system accordingly, and through net metering, we get them to zero. As we progress in the future, we think that the discussion is not going to be how much, but it's going to be when do you use that energy? Because that's going to be really important to how we transfer energy on the grid, how we use that energy, how storage integrates with the energy that we use, and that's going to be a key factor on how we can get more non-firm power onto the grid. The example I used in some of our off-grid things in storage is that imagine if you have an electric car, which I do, and you're typically used to coming home at 7 or 8 at night and plug it in, which this is what I do. And I rely on the grid to feed me the energy that I need for that car, and it's a Nissan Leaf, and it uses 4 kilowatt hours, and it's a pretty good draw.
Along with the state tax policy, adding a refundable piece back in 2009 that allowed out-of-state investors to actually actively enter the market with third-party financing, creating the lease product. There was also something near and dear to everyone in this room, possibly the Act 221 winding down. And so with that, it created, along with lower PV prices, lower construction cost from 2007 before the refundable. So all these pieces came together and pretty much created the PV storm that accelerated the systems being installed. Now with that, the electricity price actually went up and stabilized at a higher place. Now with the residential situation, that model net metering is pretty much based, the economics are based on the price of the electricity. So with that being at a stable level, that market is very hot and ongoing, thus the high penetration. Now with the actual temporary admin rules that was issued in November of 2012, effective January 2013, that admin rule also kept the economic benefit within the residential and small commercial market that Mark alluded to, that the smaller commercial and residential systems have virtually been untouched by the tax admin rule.
The one word I chose is turbulent. Turbulent on the micro level of what's going on in the Hawaii PV market, and turbulent as well on the macro level of the global PV industry. On the micro state level, the PV industry had a monster year in 2012. We all know that. More PV was permitted and installed in 2012 than the previous 20 years combined. Since the beginning of last year, more than 220 contractors have pulled PV permits on Oahu alone, and I estimate that between 350 and 400 contractors have pulled PV permits in the past 2 years statewide. To many in the business, this kind of phenomenal growth was just the beginning of seemingly countless monster years to come. And why not? Hawaii residents pay the highest electrical rates in the country. We have abundant sunshine, and the federal and state tax credits available make solar PV practically a no-brainer as far as a super attractive investment. But I believed otherwise as far as the likelihood of this rate of growth continuing. In December 2011, I wrote a piece for the Civil Bee describing what I saw as a supernova-like pattern of the Hawaii PV climate. Remember what a supernova is. It's when a giant star rapidly uses its fuel and expands dramatically before shrinking down just as dramatically to dwarf star or even black hole status. I wrote in that piece that our PV industry was experiencing a dramatic growth period that was not sustainable, and that a contraction in the industry would happen a lot sooner than many people thought.
I'm here as an individual commissioner. The views that you hear may or may not reflect that of my fellow commissioners. In fact, my comments may or may not even reflect my own views. But what I think we do need to do is have a thoughtful discussion and dialogue about the future of PV. And it's kind of interesting, as we started on the left-hand side of the panel from our side, or the right-hand side from your perspective, it went from near-term, and we got more strategic as we shifted down here, and I actually wanted to take the more strategic view. My one word is myth. Myth one, I keep hearing it all the time. Electric rates will increase by 2 to 4% each and every year in Hawaii. Not true. Actually, electric rates have been flat for the last 2 years. Yes, there was a big run-up, as Riley said, in 2011 following the Japanese earthquake and the dislocation in the Asian oil market. But prices have been flat. Oil prices actually been drifting down, and last month were probably the lowest in the last couple of years for Hawaii Electric. So that's one thing. Second thing is the so-called price to beat from a retail customer for PV is probably going to decline further in the near future when we start to reflect, or some people would suggest we should start to reflect the fact that the PV system does in fact use the grid, and it ought to pay for the grid. And then as Hawaii Electric integrates more utility scale renewable resources that are far cheaper than oil and possibly revamps its fossil fuel portfolio, I would expect to see power prices even dropping further.
After all the panelists had spoken, we had Q&A with the panel.
We closed with a Spensation, where Bill Spencer put all the keywords the panelists had used into a single sentence to summarize the discussion.
So here's my sentence. We must be flexible and adaptive during these turbulent times in the solar industry when customer interconnection needs are so different. So who the heck has the commitment to help us move forward. Imua.
All in all, the Solar in Hawaii program was a great statement on how far we've come and what we can do now in our efforts to build world-class solar infrastructure in our state.
Solar is the most popular form of clean energy in the residential marketplace. And from what was said by the panel, it's clear that that will continue to be the case in our transformation to a clean energy economy.
Moreover, it also appears that although the solar industry will have its ups and downs, it will continue to be a long-term industry sector and player in the development of our state's economy.
The development of solar will affect us all, whether we have panels on our roof or not. ThinkTech follows clean energy, and of course, we will continue to follow future developments in solar.
And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech Hawaii streams video and audio for all of our shows live on the internet from 2 to 5 p.m. every weekday and replays them all night long on ustream.tv. Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech.
On Thursday, October 24th, ThinkTech and the Hawaii Venture Capital Association will present a luncheon panel program at the Plaza Club entitled Newsmorphosis 3 Online. The program will feature a panel of journalists and publishers from the online news community in Hawaii. You can sign up for these programs on hvca.org. We did a Newsmorphosis program just around the time, serendipitously, that the Honolulu Advertiser closed down, which was spectacular. I mean, everybody was so excited about the news and sad about the news. And a year later, we did a follow-up on that, which was also a very good program. And now, 2 years after that, I guess, we're going to be doing this program, Newsmorphosis 3 Online, to take a look at the online news sources, news publications in Hawaii, and there are quite a few of them. Could be there's a big gap between the one, big print press news organization, the Star Advertiser, and all of the others that are, trying to find themselves. We're still in a process of, may I say, morphosis.
A transformation for sure.
Yeah.
I think, and it's not just Hawaii. Hawaii is really not known for its standard of quality when it comes to news and reporting. Most of the stuff is pulled from the wire services, and there's very little original
thinking and journalistic effort, which is why Civil Beat is very interesting.
This partnership between Civil Beat and the Huffington Post, that's really going to sort of cut new territory here. Anyway, the moderator is Howard Dykes. We do have Civil Beat involved. We have a few others involved. It'll be a really interesting panel, really interesting discussion, and it's a part of a transition, a transformation, as you said, that has been going on, is going on, and will continue to go on. We don't know where it's going, Bill.
Well, guess what? ThinkTech is part of it too. Maybe ThinkTech is leading the way.
Let's try to do that.
All right.
Okay, Bill. Thanks. And now, here's Bill Spencer, president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation. Solar has sort of grown legs. It has become more important because of its, proliferation, because of the money involved. $1 billion, that's not to sneeze at. And so everybody's taking more note because they think in the future this is going to be a bigger player. But as it becomes a bigger player, the characters on the stage change the way they deal with the other characters. It's a wonderful thing to observe this, And I think we had an interesting window into it, Bill. Who knew what they were going to say? Who knew what tensions would arise? Of course, we knew there were going to be some tensions because there's been a lot of tension with the utility. But I think Scott Hsu conducted himself very well, and he gave us, a real-life, flesh and blood image of Hawaiian Electric, and I think that's the right image going forward. I mean, they're among the players on the stage, and they agree with that. And we'll ehana kako. That's the thing about this program. Whatever you got on the tension side, you also got the notion that they were going to work together, that they all recognize where we are and where we need to go, and that it's going to take a collaborative effort.
Well, I agree, Jay, but I also think that, to me, the most impressive thing about the panel and the discussion was that this is a very complex subject. It's not just putting a PV panel or a hot water solar panel on your roof.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of intricacies, and I think Hawaiian Electric does have a huge challenge in trying to satisfy everybody and do it on a somewhat level playing field, because the guys that want to produce solar at the wholesale level have big challenges, and just the average homeowner that wants to feed back into the grid has challenges. And then they have technology challenges, to balance all these interactions. And then you have an industry itself that's going through a lot of changes, as one of our other panelists pointed out, where the prices are going down, yes, but that means the margins are going down, and it's going to be harder to compete.
It's really a matter of being determined to get there. We can't get distracted. We can't get caught up in small things. We have to keep on, going down the trail, focusing on where we're going. And I think programs like that do show you, give you a little more insight into where we're going, give everybody a little more insight into where we're going, and that there's a benefit of it in that regard. The other benefit I thought was really useful is to have Joe Saturnia and Island Pacific Energy bring their storage device to the program. They had to use a pretty big cart to get it in there. It was heavy, it was big, but it did attract a certain amount of attention, and it did make the point that Hawaii can actually develop technology and maybe sell it on the mainland or elsewhere. That Hawaii can solve these problems ahead of other entrepreneurs, other developers elsewhere in the world, and that's a real first, I think. This is an industry that is coming together with all of the wrinkles and all of the problems and all of the contentions. It is coming together, and people are beginning to see the role that it collectively will play as we go forward on clean energy. I was encouraged by it.
Well, I think we should be, and Hawaii does have a leadership opportunity. Renewables really are growing, and if you add hydroelectric power on the mainland, it's almost 15% of the total power required, and so and wind is actually huge on the mainland. It's a big chunk, and we have more wind power than actually many countries have electricity requirements in and of themselves. So I'm excited for the time we're in. I just hope that the regulatory process and the permitting and the challenges that are faced by Hawaiian Electric in balancing all the needs of everyone can get out of the way and allow this to move forward.
Thank you, Bill.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company, empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
The Foreign Trade Zone, operated by the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, encourages international trading in Hawaii and brings the benefits of the Foreign Trade Zone program to Hawaii businesses and entrepreneurs. Okay, Nicole, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like Duke Oishi does. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
Definitely, Jay. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be an underwriter, a sponsor, or a volunteer, and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Jay Fidell. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Nicole Hori. See you next time.